Today, we're going to talk about what you can do, how you can manipulate light so that you can look great for your Zoom meetings, your Microsoft Teams meetings, just showing up on video. If you don't have a lot of space, if you're like bumped up right against a wall and you don't have a lot of room to put a light, I'm going to show you a super powerful technique that once you know how to leverage correctly, will just like blow your mind. And if we're just meeting, hi, I'm Goodrich. I create videos on YouTube to help you show up powerfully and authentically and sparkle-tastically in video. I also have a podcast, link in description, and I have been a photographer for over 15 years and work with big deal brands, lots of shoots, photograph thousands of people. So what I love doing is helping people understand light so you can look fantastic. And really quickly, before we dig in, I have a little favor to ask. If you can just take a second and like this video and leave me a comment, it means so much to me, but it also tells the algorithm that this is a video worth watching, and so it helps other people find me and my channel. Love you so much, appreciate you. This is the third part of my lighting series. So if you are just joining us, hi, but take a little peek at this video right here because this is gonna give you all the groundwork, including the major rule that is going to help you always know how to use light, because you can spend thousands of dollars on fancy lighting equipment and still manage to make it look bad. I see people do it all the time. Not you, my friend, not you. You are gonna look wonderful once you incorporate what I'm about to teach you. We've covered the sail light, we've covered diffuse light. Today is going to be all about the bounce. When we're talking about bounce, a great way to think of it is like pool, if you've ever played that game, which is kind of hard for me, but it's all about angles. Let's say your light source is the ball and your face is the pocket, and in order to get that bounce in there, you have to hit the edge of the table. This is the best analogy, but you have to forgive me if you're like a big pool aficionado because I don't know the term. I know the kitchen is something, but I don't really know. But anyways, when you're lining up a shot, it really matters the angle that you're hitting the table with, because that is going to determine whether or not it actually hits pocket, or in this case, your face. So when we're thinking about bounce, we want to make sure that our angles are lined up. The best way to do that is really experiment, or if you can visualize, which is amazing, you can actually think about those angles. So when you're setting it up, you just want to make sure that you're experimenting and winging out that light and where you're positioning it in whatever material that you're bouncing things off of. Now, when you're thinking about the material, it can be a wall, which I love. It can be curtains. It can be foam core is great. The big white panels of foam core. You just want something that's large, that's light, so it's going to bounce the maximum amount of light back to you. So we all know this problem when you're backed up against a wall. Like if I wanted to work right here, for example, and my computer was right here, I don't have a lot of light to put a light on here. So what a lot of people resort to are the LED lights that you put right flat against the wall or clip to your computer screen. Now these will work in a pinch, but they aren't going to be very flattering. Lots of reasons, we'll dig into it. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can bounce light and make it look more beautiful. So what we're talking about is, let's say I have a wall right in front of me. Instead of pointing an LED right at me, what I do is instead point it into a surface, and then you can see how that light is then bouncing off. You can see the reflection in the camera, and then letting this surface light my face. Now, when you bounce light, there are a couple key things to remember. One is you're going to lose intensity. Just like when you drop a rubber ball, when it bounces up, it's not going to bounce all the way to where your hand is. It's going to hit a little bit lower in intensity. Same thing happens with light. So when we're doing this, we want to be trying to work with brighter lights that are still going to light us even if there's a little bit more intensity. The second is we want to make sure that whatever surface we're bouncing into doesn't have any color, because that color will then change the color temperature that's hitting your face. A great way to think about this is if you have a red wall, you're bouncing light into a red wall, you will look like an Oompa Loompa, to say the least. It will not be flattering. But a lot of times people do this without thinking, with colors that are just a little bit more subtle, like if there's a lot of yellow in a color or a lot of red in a color, and that color temperature will bounce on you. So you want to work with a lighter color. And also, the lighter the color, the more the light is going to come back to you, the more intensity that you're going to get when it hits your face. In order to make the bounce successful, you want to bounce the light into a large surface area. So for example, I can bounce light, and you can see this light that's hitting me here. I can bounce it on this card, and this is what I call the power bounce a lot, because when I have a light that's coming up high, the shadows naturally fall down. But then if I put this card here, you can see how that light is bouncing light back into my face. Silver is the most intense when it comes to bouncing light off. So I recommend white for doing your key light. Silver, in terms of a power bounce, can be great for a little bounce back up this way, but you can use it as a pinch as a main bounce, but it's not recommended because it will not soften the light in the same way that white can. The great thing about a bounce is you can take a small light source and bounce it and turn it into the size of this. That was just to demonstrate, like, actually bouncing your phone light into that isn't going to work very well because there isn't enough intensity, but you get my point that it turns the light source into something bigger. So we love things like white walls, white curtains, things like that can really make a big, beautiful light for you. So let's jump in and let me actually show you how we bounce a light. Now I have turned myself around, so I am facing the wall, and I want to show you what I have going on. So I have my camera right there with a deeply unflattering angle, but you can see I have my computer, and then I have this light that is bouncing in this wall. So you can see that all of this area here is going to be illuminating my face. Now I'm going to show you the difference between it on and it off. As you can see, this isn't optimal because in order for me to turn around and do this configuration, I have to block out my window. So I would recommend you actually have like a wall behind you with a little bit of texture, a little bit of interest that says a little something about you. But I wanted to show you how this works. So if I turn this off, this is what it looks like, right? The majority of the light is coming from behind me, and there's usually a fair amount of what we call ambient light, which is just the light that's like hanging around from windows and everything that is going to be coming in and out. Now we can tell that this creates a suboptimal lighting on my face, and the way that you can tell with your computer if you don't have enough light is you start to see all of this in here. This is grain that's showing up, those little dancy moments that are in there. And that just basically means that the computer is having to squint to get enough light to light you properly. So whenever you see that grain showing up, it should be an indicator for you to say, okay, I need more light. But we want the right quality of light, don't we? We're not going to take a bulb to the face. So let me show you why. I'm going to take this light and show you what it looks like pointed towards my face. I'm even going to put it toward the center because that's where we would want to light it relatively evenly. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. Ooh, and this is what I see a lot of people doing. And whenever you see those little cubes and things like that attach to your computer screen that light up and they're pointing those beams right to you, this is what's happening. We're getting the specular highlights, which means that there are areas in my face that are going to be really blown out. And then the rest is going to be patchy and fuggalicious. Is this better than not having any light? Clearly. However, I do not recommend. This is not, no matter how much makeup, whatever you have going on, this is not flattering, and this is why pointing a bulb right at you is really the suboptimal version. And it doesn't matter really what that bulb is. It can be a ring light, it can be those little panel cubes that you put on your computer, anything like that where the actual light source is pointing right at your face and you don't have some mechanism to diffuse it, it's going to be unforgiving like this and really create kind of patchiness in your skin. Because this is a bright light source, all I'm going to do is just point it towards the wall. And then we get some softness. But because the light was centered when it was angled toward me, and now it's angling towards the wall, this is where the bounce is, which is actually missing my face. So what I'm going to do is slide this light over so that now where the bounce is hitting the majority of my face. The next thing I'm going to do is look at this angle. Now, it might be hard to see, but right now, the majority of the light is hitting right about here. And what I want is to spread that out a bit more. So I'm going to wing the light out so that more of it is hitting the wall. And then this is how we get this more even softness to our face. Now with this light in particular, I can't remember what the wattage is, but what I would recommend is getting one that's even brighter so we get a little bit more bounce coming through. But this is even more flattering than that straight, intense light. But let's look at other light sources that we can do it with. Okay, so these are two, they're called Volkwell lights, and I think they're around $80 for two of them. What I like about these is that you have two, so you can balance, which means more intensity, more bounce, creating more of a sweet spot in the middle. It looks like they're soft because they add this little level of frost to them. However, this is deceptive because in order for the light to be diffused, like we learned about in the last video, there needs to be some distance between what's diffusing it and what's behind it. And because it's so close, it really doesn't help to soften the light or diffuse the light very much, which is why with these lights, I think bouncing is the best way to go. So let's set that up. Let's get that going. Okay, so let's look at both of these lights. See how you can see the bulb coming through? That's how you can tell that that piece of diffusion is misleading and isn't going to be very softening. And this is going to be the same with all of the lume cubes, all of those that are just that clip onto your computer. So we can see here we're getting the specular highlights and we're getting that general overall patchiness to la situation. So let's talk about how I could angle these in order to use the bounce. So I'm going to put this here. I'm just using what I have, and I happen to have light stands, but you can MacGyver, 100% MacGyver the situation. What I'm wanting to do is get these lights close to the wall and angled in a way so it's not going to be hitting me, but it's going to hit that wall there. So now I'm going to find another light stand and do it over there. Oh my goodness, I am fighting against everything. This is so hard. Okay, can I just tell you, my life right now is 100% in shambles. I'm gonna show you because for any of you who thought like YouTube is glamorous, you're wrong. And it really means just making messes all of the time. Like, look at this. So I had to block off my window for this. Look at all of this down here. All of this gear had to move around. I spilled my essential oils right there, so now it smells overly eucalyptus. And then, yeah, just totally tornado swept. I mean, I have ADHD anyway, so it's kind of hard for me to keep things organized. And in order to remove the barrier to creating videos, I always like to have everything set up so I can just press go and record. But this one took a little bit more out of me, and tomorrow is going to be a cleaning day. All right, let's get back to the video. So we have this one set up here. I'm going to set up this other side. And the idea with this is to make them twins facing the wall, make sure they're the same intensity. Okay, now let's take a look. Right? Okay, see, look at how much better, how much softer all of this looks. It's because what were two small panels is now illuminating this whole space, all of this. But now all of this light source is what's bouncing back and lighting me. And so it's softer, it's even. Now, the one thing I would say is that the reason I don't love these lights is because they are warmer. And so you can see my skin. It looks like I'm tanning in Hawaii, which I definitely did not. And I am personally, I think for my undertone, I don't love this hyper warmness. They don't have the option to shift the color balance. A lot of times when you're looking for lights, and I'll have some listed below that I really do love. These I just had, so I wanted to show you. When you're looking for lights, you want them to be either daylight balanced or to have a dial, a range, so that you can, I mean, that's really optimal because then you can really find the exact right spot for you. Yeah, but look at how much better I look in this situation with this lighting. Yeah. The final thought I will add to this lighting scenario that you want to make sure of is the big mistake I see people making. They'll angle the lights in a weird way. And what we're thinking about, just like that pool analogy, is we want the light to bounce off and come directly toward me. So we want to angle it so that and literally with lighting, you want to just imagine these angles where it could bounce and then come back. And doing that two ways is really going to create that illumination. The second issue I see is people will wing them out too much. And then now, even though it seems like I'm bouncing it, you can see by the harshness, the highlights that are happening is that I'm being hit directly with this light. And, you know, it's like a punch, it's not a kiss. So I'm going to wing it away. And you can really see when it's not hitting me anymore, and I'm being illuminated by that light. Okay, you made it. See, it is not as hard as it looks. And what you can do is play around with the lights that you have, and then when you think about getting additional lights, you can focus on getting lights that are very bright and then bouncing them into something like a big white wall to make them soft if you are crunched on time, crunched on space. There's one more video in the series. Click here to watch. And if you want to deep dive into how to really show up like a boss in video, there's a link to my class down below called Magnetic in Video, where I walk you through all the things, get you ready, get you feeling charismatic and amazing so you can show up with your full Eunice. Because if you know me, you know I'm gonna say all of this stuff about looking good, having the glamorous, razzle-tastic light, all of this stuff is really a Trojan horse. It is what you think you need so that you can get to the good stuff. And the good stuff is feeling confident, feeling like you can really show up authentically as yourself, because the world needs that special secret sauce that you have, your authenticity, your inherent amazingness. We need that. But I know that for all of us, we get hung up with all of this stuff in our brains that hold us back from actually showing up as our full selves. So I am here to help you translate with your full magnetic quality so that you can show up on video and just, you know, make our day, make our life, you know, because we need you. And I will be deeply appreciative when you are out there doing your thing, because I see you. Okay, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.